everybody. Welcome to our new video series, Ask an Amazon Agency or Service Provider. Chris McCabe of e-commerce, Chris with you. And I'm here with Yoni from Gatita. Yoni, how are you feeling today?
Can't complain. Thank you so much for having me.
You could complain, but you choose to. There's a lot to complain about lately.
The art of
but
it all is, this is the punchline right at the beginning instead of the end. The art of it all is just to fight through this or plow through this, whatever challenge that comes your way, without complaining. That's the greatness of entrepreneurs in life in general.
That's right. That's right. That's a good place to start, because I think some entrepreneurs came to Amazon at the right time with the right brand, and maybe it came sort of easy to them, but you have to scratch and claw and fight for some of that margin now. And it seems like every other week and or month, there's a new challenge when it comes to private label on Amazon, whether it's non-fee fees, or of course, you've been at Gatita for so many years, the reimbursement policy change was a huge earthquake, which you can talk about in a minute. But not even just that, it seems like there's just increased ad spend, so many things people have to pay attention to, running smooth, efficient operations, watching every single dollar. Are you getting into conversations with people about things that don't even have anything to do with reimbursements, just because they're struggling to keep up with everything and they want help with that, or they just vent to you? What is your customary conversation with a client these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So in general, obviously my focus in the past decade on the Gatita side was solving for FBA discrepancies. So definitely a major talk point. But in general, I'm very involved with the e-commerce and Amazon seller community. As a former seller myself, I cashed out in 2019, but all my buddies, all my friends are pretty much entrepreneurs that are involved in this game. So besides my core focus on help and solving for auditing and reconciliations and reimbursements, I feel like I never left, as if I'm still selling. So because I'm constantly in conferences, shows, masterminds, workshops, and constantly learning myself as if I'm still selling. So this is a weird hybrid of solving for the sellers, but also exploring or feeling the pain as if I'm the seller myself. So it's a good, weird combination of having a good overview on what's going on. So yeah, bottom line, there's a lot of pressures on the sellers and challenges that are constantly happening. With the perspective of time, I don't think that's unusual or anything new. Amazon's way of managing the marketplace for third-party sellers is that they're constantly raising the bar on the sellers over the years. It's incremental over time.
Sure.
Where it is today and where it started, I started around 2012, 13. It's just heaven and earth. Back then, you could just throw anything at the marketplace and it just swallows it up with profit and just rinse and repeat and scale.
Yeah,
But
printing
then this
money.
layer and this layer and this layer. Yeah, well, sorry?
Just printing money.
Yeah, it was like
In my first several
2012,
years.
13, when I was telling people that I'm selling on Amazon, it was if I was telling them I'm selling stuff on eBay, so they all felt like, oh, you're doing like garage sale kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, think that. We're just making money hand over fist, and we're making tens of millions of dollars and everything. So it was a really well-kept secret in a weird way. But then I think the big change in terms of awareness was around 2016, 2017, when all of a sudden you couldn't keep the secret anymore. And all these influencers, YouTube guys, course sellers, whoever they are out there, that created this global vibe of the hustle mindset or the gig economy kind of mindset, where you could just make this a passive income, all these things. That's when all of a sudden on a global level, oh yeah, there's money in Amazon and you can make some money in Amazon. So that was maybe the golden years of, you could sell a course, actually attend a course and kind of jumpstart a business and make a couple $100,000 in revenue, or maybe even
Right.
$1 million in revenue. So that was kind of the second phase. When I started, there was just no awareness. When I started, the main arena actually was eBay. Amazon was just up and coming, and that was a great time.
Way back in your 20s, yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean,
yeah.
smaller businesses, smaller brands, it's going to just be really hard to get the resources together. Lots of money goes to ads, to other costs. We have tariffs coming in. We can talk about that in a second, but people must be rushing you in terms of, this is a terrible time for me to be getting less from reimbursement claims or cases, because we need more money to become, it's like completely inverted, right? They need money now more than any other time, unless you're talking about like the highest peak of inflation. Now they need more financial support. So the financial pressures must be extraordinary.
Lots of pressures. If you think about it, there's a few layers here. One of them is money. The cost of money is higher. Interest rates are up. Money's not cheaper to borrow, right? So that's one layer. So back in 2012, 13, or up till COVID, even COVID was cheap to borrow. Interest rates are pretty much close to zero. Now they're easily 6, 7, 8% for mortgage. But if you were lending for Amazon business, forget about it. You're probably paying 18, 20% or more, which is expensive. So it costs more money to get money. Cost of everything is up. Sourcing is up. Cost of advertising is up. Cost of labor is up, which means margins are down, 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 down. So this equation is getting more and more challenging to solve. All the costs are up, more competition and less ability to get margins. So the main answer for this is understanding that we're coming into this marketplace. You really have to dominate a certain niche, have tangible moats of some kind, of any kind, and really try to figure out how you make a brand. Because if you think about it really deeply, we're in the era or the age of time where buying and selling stuff is pretty easy. Anything from stocks to anything you find in your house on eBay, right? You still have that kind of flea market mentality, or sourcing any product in any category, making a brand. It's very easy, right? You go to China or you go to India or you go wherever, it's all digital. You don't have to see the factory, nothing. It's all, I want to have a clothing line, full clothing line branded with that's easy. Meaning sourcing stuff and buying those kind of stuff so you can sell it is the easy part. Back in the day, sourcing, having a factory was a challenge, especially with low cost. Today, that's the easy part. The genius of it all, or the brilliance of it all, is selling it for a good margin. And how do you do that? It's really the art of marketing, going to market, finding your target audience that will be willing to pay a premium or a bit more than the other brands, and for a good reason, because of some sort of perceived value. That's at the heart of it all. That's the ones that are successful right now on the marketplace on Amazon, are the ones that are really mastering this. Or that's one angle, one model that I see. I would say that's ideal. That would be ideal if you're really able to command a premium because you have some sort of a value or proposition that's recognizable and defendable. If it can be a patent on the design, or the utility, or the trademark, or you're attached to a celebrity,
but
whatever
that
it
costs
is.
money too. I mean, you need
Whatever it is.
intellectual
It has to have
property help.
some sort of sophistication. But even if you have the patents, you still have to defend it. If you're getting attacked, you will get attacked. Meaning, somebody's going on the marketplace and sell it, even though they're not allowed to. And it's up to you to pay the piper and the cost to get rid of them, and know how to do that also well. That's part of the business. I know actually a good friend. That's his whole model. He only sells brands that have patents. He waits for those attackers because you know exactly how to get rid of them. And his competition is having a hard time to do that as efficiently as he does. So he's in a mode. So he keeps his margin, keeps his profitability, and it's tangible success. So that's ideal. The second model that I see is the one that realize that if they're coming into the market to squeeze some money and get out based on the ASIN level or category level, whatever it is, meaning they realize that there's maybe 6 months to maybe 2 years on a product that you'll make some margin, and then it's like the bell curve, they realize. So they're really good at finding the next product to launch, coming in there, you're ramping up the sales, making a decent margin until they see the pressure start to rise because they're top of the sales chart, let's call it. They're being targeted, and then there's competition that comes all around. So then they already have in their pipeline the next one and next one. So they're really good at this angle of launching a product, expanding the catalog, realizing there's a life cycle. After it goes away, it's okay. They have the next one and they stay profitable. So that's the secondary model that I see, that it's viable, sustainable because of the depth of the marketplace. Amazon is a huge catalog with lots of categories, a lot of money out there. If you are really well at creating this machinery that constantly does the market research, finds it, sources it, so it's its own vehicle, and there's money to be made in like tens of millions of dollars. That's real money if you do that scale. So these are the two main models that I see right now on the private label game. And of course, the third one is if you're already the Nikes or Adidas of the world, okay, you have to be in that arena, but then you don't necessarily rely too much on Amazon for branding because you have built-in demand because they're looking for your Nike or Adidas product.
Yeah, no, reselling is completely changed in terms of enforcement. It's become a very black and white world for resellers in terms of you either have the supply chain documentation that Amazon wants or you don't. You either have the letter of authorization from the right
and
party
that's your
or
mode.
you don't.
That's your mode. That's in and out. So we touched until now about the private label or the brand owners, let's call it, or the brand registry guys. The other angle or business model is the resellers. High level, there's a few types. One of them is the super great. They get whatever they get their hands on, and then they sell it. If they didn't get suspended, great. If they do, they might just open a new account or whatever. So they're really in a endless cat and mouse game, and they excel at it. They're really good at it, and they make money. The other ones, it could be the online arbitrage. They find it on a website, and then they make the sale. Then they drop ship.
That's gone.
Yeah, so that was an angle there.
Those numbers are dwindling by the day.
Yeah. Then
Amazon's against a lot of this reselling. I mean,
for sure.
They're not coming out with trumpets and horns and blaring about it, but they are rejecting invoices.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's a super great market where it's just great market. The whole thing is great, and there's no mode, there's no longevity. It's just in and out game.
That's not a long-term business strategy for anyone who's pushing that, I mean, that's the end of its lifespan.
Yeah, so these are the two kind of gray area ones. The ones that are in the reselling that are better, I would say, or more okay, is the ones that obviously the ideal one or the top one will be that you have a relationship with the brand. They authorize you to sell, almost like an agency, basically. So you
Sure,
buy direct, and but you lock the MAC compliance, and
of
so
course.
that's fair. That's good. So the value is you need the relationship with the brand that you have and the license to sell it, or agreement to sell it, or authority to sell it. The only question is if you're the exclusive or not. If you're exclusive, you might have really a gold mine. But if not, you're just in line with another 4 or 5 of them out there. You might not get as much volume as you like.
I mean, there's still a lot of products where Amazon doesn't have a competitive brand of their own. And most of the brands selling those types of products are smaller 7-figure brands. And there is opportunity for growth. And you need a strategy and you need to understand marketing capabilities or influencer
Yeah, definitely. If you're
marketing.
taking some sort of mid-size or small-size brands and categories that have potential to expand, that's a good era. But once
Yeah.
that gets matured and saturated, and there's some major brands out there, that's when you have to have your relationship in place so you don't get replaced by another player out there. So you don't lose this authority to sell those brands that you hopefully help bring to the top. Sometimes you see that where you start with a brand where they don't have any Amazon presence. They're in some sort of arts and crafts niche,
Yep.
and you take them
That's
to
what
a
I
few
was
million
thinking.
or tens of millions. They're a phenomenal success, and then your contract is up and you're not able to reload, you get replaced. But if you're able to reload, you have another point of longevity. So high level, we kind of covered most of the typical. There's definitely always the oddballs or hybrids or something like
Mhm.
that. But high level, I would say that that's pretty much the environment right now with this within this industry.
Tariffs are
Some
coming in.
yeah,
So, and
that's the macro geopolitical pressures that are external to the actual marketplace, or just global politics.
I know having co-hosted our New York meetup for so long, I know you love talking macroeconomics. That's why I threw it out there for you.
Yeah, so definitely if tariffs will be risen and expanded throughout the world, and especially in China or India or Vietnam or places like that, it's going to be hard for the sellers to roll those costs into the consumer, which you would typically think that happens. But it's hard if you're, let's say you're a US based company and you're buying from China and then you have to pay this tariff. So if you want to roll it to the Amazon marketplace, it'll be hard for you because especially if your competitor is the actual factory you source from. So
Hmm.
the factory is okay absorbing it and not raising the cost. So they're okay making less margin. While for you, it's making no margin at all, or even worse, turning a loss. Then you have to give up on the game. For
Yeah.
example, that's a certain scenario. So you either get out of the game or you find an alternative country that is not being affected. I know there's an extension for Canada and Mexico right now. So maybe for the next 30 days, you will
Well,
be able to get something there, but
it's
it's tough.
there's been so many reversals and then reinforcements, I guess. It's
This is
hard
a
to
great
predict.
reset in global politics, stepping out of the economy side of it. I think there's some sort of attempt to reset the global positioning of powers and some of the conflicts, the armed conflicts out there.
Hmm.
There's some sort of resolution so that can, in alignment later on the economic side and on tariffs. So then you create this new ground level rules and levels, and then you set it from there and let the best player win there. But also, I think the United States is trying to get their alliances closer, and whoever's out there, the competitor side, make sure that they understand that they're their competitor and try to get them to be less competitive or more cooperational, especially if we talk direct China. So with China, as far as the government perceives, it's very one-sided. They take as much as they can. They don't really contribute back
Yeah.
in terms of buying. So they're
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
trading at a surplus instead of a deficit. So I think there's definitely an attempt to align it so they buy more or share more or something like that. I don't know if it's going to succeed or not, but that's
Well,
the trigger for this. So if they're going to be able to make them cooperate, things will cool off. But if not, they might intensify and get even worse. So it might get dirtier and more ugly.
the problem is when there's tons of uncertainty and there's so much inconsistency, that's when it's tough to make good business decisions because there's no
Yeah,
reliability, there's no
the kingdom of
predictability.
uncertainty. Yeah, the kingdom of uncertainty. It just right now
Right.
it's a major turbulence of so many layers of uncertainty. Yeah.
I mean, some people, if you're a politics junkie and you follow all the news and you love it when things are disrupted from a political standpoint, that's one thing. If you're a business owner and you have to adjust costs or plan or forecast, order inventory, change manufacturers, whatever you have to do, uncertainty and inconsistency and a lack of reliability around you, that's your enemy. So what's happening now and what could play out for the rest of this year into next just makes Amazon selling harder because Amazon's already built in so much uncertainty around they might take your top selling listing down tomorrow.
Hmm.
It's funny what I was looking at right before I got on this recording with you just as one random example, there's a bunch of people getting their invoices rejected. Hey, we don't like your supplier. We saw your invoice. We don't care. We're not taking it. We're not reinstating your ASIN. Or some of their whole accounts are suspended. Don't like your supplier. Don't like your invoice. Have a nice day. They say no. There are other sellers that contact us for help and they don't even have an invoice, right? The first thing they tell me is, well, we don't have any invoices. Amazon asked us, we don't have them. They suspended our account. Some of them write back to me like a day or two later, and they say, you know what? Without any messaging, without any warning, they just reinstated it. Our ASINs are
I
back
never heard
up.
of that. I never heard of that.
So those people didn't even have it. I'm just saying that just shows you how much chaos is built into the system. So those people who I said, well, how are you going to appeal without an invoice? You know, I give them the logical, realistic advice response. They come back and they're like, you know what? We didn't even have to appeal it. Amazon just put us back up. So don't worry about it.
Wow.
And then there are people that have invoices, some of them from suppliers they've had for years, vendors they've sourced from 5, 6, 7 years. And Amazon always accepted their invoices for the last 6 years. Year 7, all of a sudden that supplier is unacceptable and the account's suspended. And they don't explain why they suddenly suspended them. They just say, we can't verify your supplier. And then, of course, if you send the invoices that they ask for certain ASINs, they say, well, we can't accept these either because these invoices lead back to a supplier we can't verify. So that just shows like you can't make responsible business.
Yeah, it's upside down.
It's like
from
that.
this perspective, it seems like it's upside down. And how do you survive and thrive in this kind of murky terrain waters of not, everything is in all your ducks in a row, and all of a sudden they're not in a row because somebody decided, and the other one has no ducks in no row, and things just work out. It's very strange.
Well, somebody who's probably never owned a business who has entirely different objectives flips a switch and has the power and authority to flip that switch.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this post a couple of days ago where somebody in the Amazon team basically they flagged something as authentic, and it was authentic, and the Amazon system or algorithm figured that it's not authentic, so their metrics as an Amazon team member got negatively affected. So from that point on, that team member was just enticed to just when they have an average of 10 minutes, they gotta
less than that,
less than 10 minutes to kind of review a case and move to the
next one.
They're
incentivized to reject.
Yeah, she said from that point on, I just rejected everything because I was safe side. I can reject and push this can down the road to the next team member. And have my matrix look brilliant. So I'm under 10 minutes every time. And they took that approach and never took a risk and rejected constantly. And then they got promoted, or I don't know, promoted, but they got awarded and recognized.
No, they got credit for working on something where they didn't really do any work. They just hit the reject button.
Yeah, and then basically getting a good feedback on the employment side and getting commended for being a good team members and having good metrics and all that stuff. So I don't know if this whole thing is true or not, but let's say it was true. Just to show you that this machinery needs maybe a tweak or change in terms of incentivizing the truth. And the truth is, if the product is authentic, it should be sold on the platform. And if it's not, shut it down and rip their hearts out. That should be the ultimate objective, and push towards that instead of just saying any complaint is deemed inauthentic for a product. And then honest, good businesses can get potentially destroyed in a really large scale. So this story is the age-old story of being in the marketplace and still they haven't cracked that ultimate code, for better or worse. So anybody watching this or listening is not too familiar. So March 10th, in my world of FBA auditing and reconciliation, there's going to be a policy change where Amazon, instead of reimbursing the FBA sellers based on the sell price of the product, so let's say you want to sell the product on Amazon for $30. So if they lose it or damage it or anything else, they'll pay $30 as if you sold it on Amazon. But by March 10th, 2025, the policy changes, so they're only going to pay you the manufacturing cost of the product. So let's say your manufacturing cost is $5 and they lost or damaged your product. Instead of paying you currently, like as they are $30, they're going to pay you $5. So that's pretty much a dramatic change for the sellers, and it will put them at a loss center, because right now it's a profit center. If Amazon loses or damages anything, it's a profit center for the sellers because they're able to get the cost back, but also turn a profit. Today, they're going to be turning a loss because manufacturing cost does not include or excludes shipping costs, custom tariffs, which are also probably going to go up, right? We just touched upon that. So that adds more inflationary pressures and margin compression pressures for the sellers out there. Just another color and nuance into this whole larger array of system that is challenging. Once again, you also have FBA fees that have been consistently rising over the years, so it's much more expensive now to sell an FBA and place stuff on FBA than ever before. If you don't have enough inventory, they strike you, they charge you a fee for that. If you have too much inventory, they strike you and charge you a fee for that.
So many challenges.
If you have your documents in a row or you don't have the documents in a row, it's a hit or miss, so you don't know what's going on. And then if you get suspended on ASIN level or account level, you don't know when they're going to be able to go back or not. So during that time, you're losing revenue, you're losing margin. Lots of competition out there on a global scale. It's not just American sellers against you, it's you against the world kind of thing. It definitely could be China-based sellers, anywhere-based sellers.
Yeah.
Cost of advertising is up. I mean, the whole story seems like impossible, but nevertheless, it's still working for high level. They're saying there's 8-9 million out there selling on the platform, but there's an 80-20 rule. Only 20% are actually making the marketplace. So maybe close to 2 million businesses. That's a big chunk. Despite all of that, it's still much, much, much more lucrative and enticing and rewarding than selling to traditional brick and mortar. Brick and mortar, if you want to put your brand out there, if you thought Amazon's pressures or challenging, those kind of brick and mortar options, if it's Macy's, Home Depot, Walmart, all these guys, just to get a meeting, could cost you hundreds of thousands, or just being on the shelf.
Yeah.
Before you sold anything, could be hundreds of thousands or a few million, especially if it's top shelf. And also you have guaranteed margin, meaning if your stuff doesn't even sell, you still have to pay them as if it is. So you have all these draconian things that you would, so here at least Amazon gives you the opportunity to bring your products to the market, to the masses. Okay, there's some costs involved, but they're probably still dramatically lower than other options. In other words, the barrier to entry is still lower and reach Amazon's consumer base than other players. Nevertheless, there's a lot of desire to do that by so many players. So you're going to have to be sophisticated, and it's a never-ending game of education and improvement and constant improvement over time. So if you're that kind of nature and capacity, you can come in and over time you'll be successful, no doubt.
Yeah, no shortcuts. I mean, I think part of what's changed over the last couple of years is people going for quick score, shortcuts, join some mastermind group, learn some tricks, apply the tricks. I don't think we live in that age at all anymore. I think that's short-term play. And if that's all you care about is getting paid this month, then okay. But most of the brands
and
out
above
there
all, honestly, a North Star, if somebody can hang on to this North Star, just be innovative. If you're really good technically and innovative, so your products are constantly innovative or new or different, they have an edge, they're patented, then you're going to be a really good spot, because you can come into this marketplace at a relatively lower cost than other options, reach a large user base, and be able to defend your position once all these interruptions happen. And once you master that, you have a really solid business model on your hands. And then you can expand to these other marketplaces and pay $250,000 upfront to be on a shelf, because you have the data, consumers like it, you got all the feedback, you iterated, you improved everything, and then expand forward. That's the ultimate Amazon dream. Born on Amazon, expanded everywhere else.
Perfect way to end it. Thank you for that. It didn't even have to cue you up a question. You just finished on a perfect level. You must have done this before. Good job. Good job. All right. Where can you be located if people have questions or want to know more about what Getida does?
Yeah, so you can visit just getida.com, getidea.com. I'm pretty active on social media, so if you reach out, Yoni Mazor at LinkedIn or Facebook, I'm pretty active, and feel free to reach out.
I've never had trouble finding you. That's true. All right. Thanks for taking time to talk to me today.